What if I told you the story of arguably the best white soul singer ever from the UK? It involves Ozzy Osbourne's father-in-law dangling people off a balcony. It involves Lionel Bart's production of Oliver. And it involves generational mistrust of the British music industry. This is the story of the Small Faces, and we're going to start now. You're listening to the Beat Motel Podcast, and we need to warn you that we like to use words like fuck, shit, and syndicalist, boxy scrutux, angry flap, and biscuits. So, Dr. Sam, what do you think of when you think about the 60s and the music, the explosion in the raw kind of the blues and the soul and all that stuff? Would you be surprised if I told you it started all with a production of Oliver?
I think the 70s was better.
You think the 70s was better? You weren't born then either. I remember the 70s.
The 70s was better musically than the 60s. But the 70s couldn't have happened without the 60s.
That's so beautifully straightforward. Couldn't have the 70s without 60s. You can't bypass it.
It's not so linear. But I consider myself one of us.
Good start. Right. So, the Small Faces then.
Do you have a small face?
Yeah. What do you think you know about it anyway?
So, what do you know about the Small Faces? For anyone who's watching or listening, Sam's never heard these. And Sam's never heard these clips. Do you want to hear that again?
Yeah. What do you think you know about it anyway?
So this is a not so subtle rip-off of Jenner in his history podcast, the name I've forgotten of. Oh, You're Dead to Me. So at the beginning, he goes, so what do you know? So I contacted a professional voiceover artist I know, who you know as well, Dr. Sam, and asked him to make some Radio 4 style idents for the podcast.
This is what you got.
This is what I got. So this is by Marv, who you and I know as from being in Los Salvadores, but his real name's Martin Wiskin. So thank you very much, Martin Wiskin, professional voiceover artist. So I'm going to do it one more time, and then we'll move on.
Yeah. What do you think you know about it anyway?
So, Dr. Sam, what do you know about the Small Faces? Tell me about the band The Small Faces.
They had small faces.
Right, okay. Like Shrunken Heads, or...
Yeah,
don't look it up.
Heads.
Don't be looking it up. That spoils the whole
sorry,
thing.
there was a thing in my browser saying something
Free
annoying.
porn.
No, you could speed your computer up by closing this window.
You can speed your computer up by shutting it down.
But you can speed your computer up by stopping doing what you're doing. I know they were a 60s band. I think they were... how can I trigger people? They were precursors to the Rolling Stones, the important one anyway, and it's where Rod Stewart was least offensive.
Okay, interesting. And, we shall find out.
And let's put 60s now. John Bonham had sex with the keyboard player.
Right, so you're just flailing.
Snorted and snorted
ants.
Snorted the drums off the stage. In,
right.
The Royal Tunbridge Wells in Royal Tunbridge Wells.
So the most popular venue in Tunbridge Wells used to be a public toilet. That's a true fact.
I've been there. I saw slaves there.
You saw who?
Okay. What are they called now?
Soft Parade. No, Soft Play.
I think I saw them there. Yeah.
Right. Before we lose the audience, let's get started with the story of the Small Faces, and
the audience.
We have to. Well, yeah, we have.
In the beginning, some stuff happened.
So, right at the very beginning of the story, did you like that? The very beginning of the story of the Small Faces.
How it interrupted you as well.
Oh yeah, I've heard it so many times, and yeah, I gave Martin Wiskin, the voiceover guy, I gave him free rein. I was like, look, you know us. He's been on here as a guest a bunch of times. I was like, you know us. Just have complete creative control. These are the words I need you to say, but just have at it. Let's just do that one more time because it makes my knees feel a bit funny.
In the beginning, some stuff happened.
Oh God, I've had to be mixing an album that I made recently, and I'm appalled by my own vocals. I don't know what I was thinking, but yeah, I don't think I can play it to my family. Right, so we're going to set this story up right at the very, very beginning with this little clip. So listen to this.
Consider yourself at home. Consider yourself one of the family. We've taken you so strong. It's clear we're going to get along. Consider yourself well in. Consider yourself part of furniture. There isn't a lot to spare. Who cares?
This is crazy. That's like every time I hear sung, heavily leaning into Cockney accents, I think the craziness of both trying to deliver like clear syllables and clear words at the same time as the Cockney glottal stop.
Glottal stop.
Yeah, at home. Like you're not saying that at home. It's so hard. It would just be so much easier if you just had one of them at home or at home. One of them. Just give them one of them at home.
It's so thick in this example, isn't it? So that is from the 19...
genuine? It's not genuine. It's someone putting it on. It's someone. It's learnt for the piece.
Put it this way: I didn't commission it for the podcast, but the person who sung it was from London, not necessarily East London, but that is from the original 1960 West End cast recording of Oliver, and the singer there was none other than Steve Marriott. So Steve Marriott was the singer of the Small Faces, and that was him.
Because he had a small face.
Because he had a small face. That was him recorded in 1960 as a 13-year-old, because he played the Artful Dodger in the West End show Oliver by Lionel Bart. Now, he was in the production for a year, and you can hear there that
was that before or after the book came out?
You short-circuited my brain for a second there, before or after the book came out.
My aim at the moment is just to be as stupid as possible.
Fair enough, that's it. Yeah, I've done careful research, and you're welcome to crap all over it. Right. I tried not to swear then. I don't know why I fucking bothered. So that was Steve Marriott. He was in the West End for a year, and because he had a remarkable voice, so Lionel Bart personally chose him, and that's him recording in Abbey Road. And there is an argument, and you agree with me or disagree with me by the end, that might have been the financial peak of his career. But
what? So tell me about his background. What part of London was he from? And what did his parents do? What do they do during the war?
What did they do during the... There's that poster, isn't there? What did you do during the war, Daddy? Oh, that's the First World War. Oh, no, what did you do in the Great War? I'm going to have to check my notes. I have got extensive notes. So you want to know what part of London he was from?
Yeah. What were his parents' income?
You want to know the inside leg measurement? Oh, that's such a lazy bit of crappy podcast. The inside leg measurement. You want to know how big his todger was, don't you? So his father, Bill Marriott, was a classic East End kind of guy. He played the piano in music halls and the harmonica in pubs.
I think your name, the official term is the old Joanna.
Played the old Joanna, and what would the official Cockney term of a harmonica be? A mouth organ.
Probably mouth organ.
Probably mouth organ. Yeah, probably mouth organ probably is the colloquial term rather than harmonica, isn't
or
it?
harmonica. No.
Yeah. How do you do it with the glottal stop? Harmonica. You've just got to sound like you're constipated.
You want to stop playing with harmonica? sorry, these terrible jokes. I haven't talked to anybody apart from my family the last few days, so...
Just let it out, let it all out. So, yeah, his parents were... I'm guessing they weren't mega wealthy, because at a young age they gave Steve Marriott a ukulele and sent him out busking to earn money for the family. But they also encouraged him to be hyperactive. They encouraged the performer in him, which you can hear from that West End performance of Oliver. That's it's very full on, isn't it?
It's very musical. It's very not musical, but it's very musical delivery. Very sort of 60s performance. Very over the top.
It's the thing that interests me is it's a genuine version of what that guy who's now 101 years old did, Dick Van Dyke. So
I thought you were going to say David Attenborough.
No, he's only 100. Only 100. So you know the story of Dick Van Dyke in Mary Poppins, how he developed his accent.
He's very Dick Van Dyke, isn't it? Yeah. No, I don't.
So he was told by the studio to go find a vocal coach, and he was at a party, and there was an Australian guy there, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be in this film. I've got to go find a vocal coach." And this Australian guy, who incidentally had never been to Britain, went, "Yeah, I'm a Cockney vocal coach. Yeah, absolutely. Give me some money." I imagine that's how the conversation went. So Dick Van Dyke worked with this Cockney vocal coach who was Australian, never been to Britain, and that's why his accent is so bloody weird in that. Right, so Steve Marriott, I said he played the Artful Dodger, which is quite a lead character. I mean, 13 years old. That's nuts to be on the West End stage. So when he left, he was replaced by somebody else that you might have heard of, and I'm going to tee that up by playing you this little... Do you know what that is? Do you want to even have a guess what that is?
Not a clue.
Not a clue. That's from a film by an artificial band, a manufactured band called the Monkees. So I don't know how, because you grew up in the 80s, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, you were sort of tail end 80s. I don't know if the Monkees really loom large in your world, kind of growing up in Portugal and Spain, Portugal and Rome.
Music, they're pop songs much more than their series or their movies.
Yeah, because they were constantly on TV when I was a kid, when we had like only 2 hours a day during the school holidays if you were lucky.
When I was my main memory of things on TV when I was a kid is Police Academy.
Oh, right, okay. Culturally a little bit different. So, do you know the name of the English guy who was in the Monkees?
Dave.
No.
Dave? Not Dave.
No, it was Dave. It was Dave. But Davy Jones. So when Steve...
yes. Yeah. I know Davy
so when
Jones.
My old dentist, Dr. Schuster, looked exactly like Davy Jones. And in fact, I'm not entirely sure he wasn't, because I never saw him in the room at the same time.
Are you doing very well to keep us on track?
I am. I've actually prepared. This is a big difference between this and... If you're listening to this episode of Beat by Tell enjoying it, don't bother going to look at older ones. I mean, the last few we've actually done research, but the rest of the ones before, it's just us talking shit. Right, so I don't want to say Steve Marriott, who was the first, the Artful Dodger before Davy Jones, wasn't as good as Davy Jones, but Davy Jones was scouted. When they moved Oliver to Broadway in America, in New York, they were so impressed with Davy Jones, they moved him over there, which I think is insane. So 13 years old, and they're like, "Yep, you've done all right on the West End. Yeah, whatever. We're now going to move you to America." And based on the fact that this was the early 60s, well, 1963 is when Davy Jones went over the Atlantic. I don't know what kind of safeguarding there was. I don't know if he went by himself. I don't know if his whole family went, because solo travel was quite a big thing right up until the 90s. Actually, and incidentally, did you ever do solo travel as a kid?
No.
No, yes, because I think it's bonkers, the idea of putting your child on a plane by themselves. See you later. So,
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Now, he was actually quite popular on Broadway, Little Davy Jones, so much so that he made this appearance on television.
Now I shall go last. Smile if it kills ya. I'd do anything for you, dear. Anything for you. Mean everything to me. I know that I'd go anywhere for your smile. Anywhere for your smile. Everywhere I see.
So, quite a different singing style to Steve Marriott there. He's still doing the Cockney, but it's sort of going...
half as thick. Yeah, but it's also not half as thick, and his voice isn't as powerful, I would say.
It's not, actually, is it? I hadn't twigged that, but you're right. And I wonder if they had to calm it down a bit for the American audience.
Well, they're not ready for full Cockney.
They're not ready for full Cockney. They weren't ready for Slade in the 70s. You know, famously, the Slade film had subtitles on it when it was shown in America. Obviously, very, very different accent, but yeah, we'll lump them all in together as weird British accents.
They're all working class communities. Same.
So that recording.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right. That's fine. That recording of Davy Jones as the Artful Dodger. Filmed on a potato, unfortunately. That clip of him on the Ed Sullivan show was the same night as another British band made their American debut. This is 1964. Which American band made their debut on Ed Sullivan in 1964?
American band?
No, sorry, British band.
64? That could have been the Beatles?
It was the Beatles.
Yeah.
So Davy Jones had a while of being kind of a star at a very young age on Broadway. And being on the Ed Sullivan show, this was a big deal. This is what launched bands. So the Doors were launched on Ed Sullivan. A really big show. It's the only impression I've ever seen someone do of Ed Sullivan. And that was Homer on The Simpsons. So that's my cultural reference. So apparently, you know how we do research and we try and find sources, and there's a long list of sources and citations that will be in the show notes for this. Allegedly, Davy Jones performed, as you just saw, and the audience was polite, and they clapped and whatever. And then the Beatles went on, and the audience erupted. And allegedly, a young 13, 14-year-old Davy Jones, side of stage in the wings or whatever, saw the reaction and saw all the girls going mad and went, I want to do that. That looks more fun than being a Cockney geezer in a Lionel Bart production. And allegedly, that's what piqued his interest in becoming a musician and joining the Monkees. But I mean, you're an actual academic. If you hear a fact like that, what's your gut reaction?
It's a romantic story, and there could have been something, but it tends not to be like, I don't know. It's more of a process of like what would be the actual psychology of someone. Would you see something and go, right, something that's actually taken me across to America, is it worthwhile throwing that all in? Because how many bands actually got the Beatles reaction? Also, he's a 13-year-old boy, so there might be an aspect of like, oh yeah, that's great, that looks amazing, sod this.
So what occurs to me is first of all, who would have recorded that? So a primary source would be Davy Jones being interviewed at some point later in his life and go, I remember seeing the Beatles after I was the Artful Dodger, and I thought that looks like a good way to get some fanny, or whatever language he might have used at the time. Fanny was one of the other one of the characters in Oliver. That was
Are we using the English or American term of fanny, or does it matter?
It's an interesting question, because when I read Enid Blyton, for example, books, the Faraway Tree, there was a character in that called Fanny, and there's also a character called Dick. And I don't know if Enid Blyton was kind of just having a bit of a cheeky hey, but in the modern film they're Richard and I don't know, fuck button or something.
Probably.
Francis, yeah, something like that. So obviously we've got two people there now. We've got Steve Marriott, who's the Artful Dodger, and we've got Davy Jones, who's the Artful Dodger. So Davy Jones left and went to America to become the Artful Dodger, and there was a very small gap. Then somebody else replaced him in the production. And we're going to talk about that person very shortly and very briefly. It's amazing that we only play 30 seconds of anything on here for licensing reasons and whatnot, and yet some songs 30 seconds feels like a lot longer than other songs.
It does, actually. It's quite true. And also, I thought it's the same visual effect as the Monkees had back.
Oh, I didn't finish telling you about the Monkees film, did I? So the film's called Head. I don't know if it's the American meaning or something lewd or what, but I'd say it's a bit like seeing Emperor at a festival. It's worth seeing Head. Everyone should see Head, but once is enough, because it's them doing the cinematic version of when those two fellas from that band Steps got caught smoking joints on Oxford Street. I don't know if that's in your sort of ken or not, but the Steps are a 90s, early 2000s, very clean cut, blah, blah, blah. And you get trapped in that as a stereotype. So two of them got arrested and got on the front page of the Sun for smoking joints on Oxford Street, which must be one of the most deliberate bits of trying to, smash down, oh, look, we're not good boys anymore. We're going to now be adult entertainers. Not like sort of adult entertainers, but grown-up entertainers.
What was the adult entertainer bit again? The hand gesture?
Did you not do?
It's a sign language.
No, the sign language for fucking is a pinch and a slam like that, or depending, all inclusive. That's the sign for sodomy. So this must work really well on audio only podcasts. That's the sign for Guinness, and that's the sign for the act of sodomy. You learn something every day.
About Scissor Sisters.
I'll just leave that up to your imagination. So, yeah, the film's bloody weird. They're just, in the same way as Steps getting caught with joints, they're trying to be wacky and weird, but they just haven't got it in them. It just comes across as, like, pantomime psychedelia. And I didn't play much of the actual song because it doesn't matter. It's just like a pastiche of all the psychedelic stuff that was clearly selling records.
So we have one role, and we have three people who've become quite important to the history of popular music.
So the last one
through a musical that is in itself has an enduring quality, and is probably quite important to the history of musicals, and it inspired Charles Dickens to write a very important book.
Beautiful setup. I really like that you managed to keep a straight face during that. So yeah, the third person, when Davy Jones left to pursue being on the same bill as the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, his place was taken by a 13-year-old Phil Collins,
Genesis drummer. Yeah,
Genesis drummer.
It's interesting that he never got anywhere other than playing drums for Genesis.
Well, where is he now? No one ever listens to the drummer anyway, does they? No. They doesn't. So, do you think that Lionel Bart, when he was writing Oliver, was plotting out the trajectory of 1960s and 70s British rock?
No.
Okay, so in summary, the early years, so the very beginning, Steve Marriott plays the Artful Dodger. He was replaced by Davy Jones. Davy Jones was on the Ed Sullivan Show the same night as the Beatles. I thought I'd do a little summary, because I'm kind of throwing a lot of information at you, and I might quiz you. Well, I am going to quiz you at the end. So 3 years after Steve Marriott joins, his replacement is Phil Collins. Right, so next we're going to go on to the actual band, the Small Faces. Now, you've already alluded to this. So, why do you think they're called the Small Faces? What's a face? Think about 1960s Britain. What's a face?
Well, there's this concept of like keeping face, and
okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Pull at that thread.
So about not having a reputation, not losing that reputation, or not losing your, what was it, like your, not losing respect, and keeping So I don't know. What's a small face?
I'd not seen it from that perspective. That does kind of tie in though. So a face is a mod term. The mods and the rockers. Beatles were famously asked on when they were in America for the Ed Sullivan show. It was when they were also making Hard Day's Night, I think. And they were asked, and John Lennon was asked, "Are you a mod or a rocker?" And he says, "I'm both. I'm a mocker." So no, it's a mod term, and it basically means, and I actually made a quote of this. It's somebody of ultimate style, sharp tailoring, and top tier influence over their peers. They're the leaders of the scene. So the ace face. And
leader of the pack.
Leader of the pack. Yes. I might skip over some parts of music history when it starts to refer to people like that. But to illustrate what an ace face is in mod terms, I've got a little clip to show you. You have to watch this carefully. So, did you spot the ace face there?
What did you think of a leader of the pack? I meant Shangri-La's.
Oh no, I was thinking of Gary Glitter, which is something that doesn't pop into my head very often. Right? No. Well, no, Shangri-La still has some problematic areas to it because of Phil. I'm going to put a gun in your mouth, Dee Ramone Spector. Apparently, he put a gun in Dee Ramone's mouth when he was recording them. Dee Ramone just stepped back and went, "Fuck's sake, again!" So did you spot the ace face there? He was the guy dancing with the blonde hair.
Yeah, that was Gordon, wasn't it?
God, Gordon. What's his real name? Because it's Sting, just for anyone listening or watching.
His real name. It's Gordon.
His real name is Gordon.
He refuses to be known by it. So apparently he even insists his children on that. Call him
Sting?
Yeah. So his name is Gordon.
No, you can't choose your own name, right? It's locked in. It's absolutely set in stone. You cannot, if you're going to have like, "Hey, my cool alternative name." I did not choose the name Andrew Culture, but you can't choose your own because it just makes you a bellend. I'm afraid.
Yeah, and exactly. So even if you have a nickname with some group of people, that doesn't mean that nickname sticks with everybody. So I've got. So sorry, Gordon. He will be known as Gordon on this podcast.
From now on, we will always refer to Sting as Gordon Sting. Or just Gordon.
The artist formerly known as Sting as Gordon.
Right, so he's a face. He's the ace face in the. Do you know what film that was? Quadrophenia. I'm not even going to bother waiting to see.
Have you been to the alleyway where they have sex?
Oh, Phil Daniels and the woman who was later on in Men Behaving Badly. Paul Daniels. Paul Daniels, who famously sung with Blur on Parklife. Oh man, I need a sip of water after that. You'll have to pad for a second there. So Paul Daniels and Leslie Phillips fucking in the alleyway on Quadrophenia.
Yeah. So these days, if you're going to Brighton, you can go and have a tour around sort of the famous parts of Brighton that you can still see from Quadrophenia. And that alleyway is incredibly well known, and it's what actually in local parlance is the thing. Small alleyways in Brighton are local Sussex parlance is Twitton.
Twitton.
Yeah,
I thought they're the lanes, or is that something else?
No, there's small alleyways between the small alleyways that sort of connect them. And it's only apparently, I think it might only be Brighton, sorry, Brighton.
I'm. What'd you say, Brighton?
Well, you can't pronounce the T.
Brighton.
Yeah, it doesn't sound right.
Right.
Brian.
I'm fascinated by local parts or colloquialisms. I was giving a talk somewhere recently. And I referred to a Suffolk phrase. So when I was a kid, the only way we got pocket money, we had a thing called the chart. At the end of each day, my dad would go, me and my little sister would go through the chart, and we both had different things on the chart. And if you got a tick in all of the boxes, you got your 2 pence for that day, and then it was tossed up at the end of the week. So we both had different things, and one of the things both of us had on our chart, you had to get a tick for did not put my parts on. So nobody in the room knew what I was talking about, apart from one person who bizarrely grew up like 2 miles away from where I grew up. So do you know what putting your parts on means? I cannot just be. It's not even Suffolk. It's like specifically supposed to be the village I grew up in Suffolk, Wickham Market. So putting your parts on. Do you want to have a guess about what that means if you're a kid?
Putting your pants on?
That's what everybody thought. No, putting your parts on is throwing a tantrum.
That's interesting. I've been reading my kid some Michael Rosen poems recently. And there's a really great one, which is it's like a kid being told off. Don't do that. It starts, and it's got this one. My kid loves this poem, and it ends with "Don't throw fruit at a computer."
Right.
So every time I say to my kid, don't do that, don't throw fruit at a computer, it sort of brings the disciplining into humour. It's wonderful.
That's really cute.
He goes a bit like, oh, okay.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
That's really sweet. Right, so the name, The Small Faces, is a joke, and it's a self-depreciating joke for the band that they chose for themselves because they're all quite short. None of them were over about 5.5 feet. But they were faces. They were mods. They want to be sharp, and so it's sort of a nice little thing, as it were. So Steve Marriott, obviously he had some background in music by then, and incredibly short number of years between leaving the West End and the Small Faces forming. And what I didn't realise before I did this research, just how young the band were. So Steve Marriott met Ronnie Lane, who was the bassist, in 1965. So you think he was 15 then? I'm just doing some mental maths here. And they met in a music bar called the J60 Music Bar, which is in Manor Park in London. And Steve Marriott's dad was working, it says behind the counter. You don't really have a counter in a... What is a music bar? I've just realised I wrote that down. I'm not sure what it is. Is it a pub or is it a... Go on, you lived in London.
It's not going to be a pub.
No, because obviously, you kind of forget that when we were...
There might have been, there were things like, like in Back to the Future, there'd be these milkshake bars where the underage kids, teenagers and stuff can hang out in, and not, diners and stuff like that. Like a bit more kid focused, a bit more kid focused rather than necessarily sort of exclusive. Yeah.
Well, pharmacists in America used to have soda bars. So in the film It's a Wonderful Life, you can really see in a pharmacist a soda bar. So kids going in to buy Coca-Cola and whatever from a bar.
So,
I think my next note might solve the mystery, though, because it says that Lane walked in with his dad to buy a bass guitar. So I'm going to really go out on a limb here. There used to be a really, really old-fashioned guitar shop in Ipswich. I can't even remember what it was called. But when you walked in, you couldn't go and pick up the guitars. It was the old-fashioned kind of shop. But you walk in, and there's just like almost a little lobby. I think you might be too young to remember when a lot of shops were like this.
I know. I remember Argus when it was good.
Argus is not... Sorry. Maybe dribble then. I've got a clip for that. So hang on. Look, you may... right. Oh, Sam, you made me dribble then.
Stop the clock. Dim the lights. Ooh, let's get weird.
Oh dear, it's not really meant for that occasion, but I just suddenly thought it fitted. Yeah, fuck it. Let's move on. We're taking too long. Thank you, Martin Wiskin. Right, so they struck up. Steve Marriott, and Ronnie Lane made friends, basically. They got chatting, and they then found a couple of other friends and started rehearsing in a pub called the Ruskin Arms. Now, the Ruskin Arms in Manor Park was owned by Winston, the organ player's parents. Now, the Ruskin Arms, I'm pretty sure the Ruskin Arms is famous for being where Iron Maiden did a lot of their early rehearsals and gigs.
Oh.
So, mutual friend of the show, Dagenham Dave, aka the Sex Machine, he saw Iron Maiden loads of times in the Ruskin Arms, and I've just put 2 and 2 together, and I reckon that's what it was. So, like a lot of bands, and they had to be discovered, and I'm always fascinated by this. This is the bit that gets lost out of a lot of biographies. How did a band get discovered? What was the thing that made them go pink and suddenly start to get somewhere? Now, in this case, the Small Faces were playing a gig at a place called the Starlight Room in Oxford Street, and somebody was watching them who would change their lives.
I cannot see clearly. Isn't that he coming to me? Nelly, here. Like the pine is sweet and heady.
Do you have a guess who that was? And there's so many people of a certain age listening to this or watching it, well, the 2 or 3 people, who will go, what the fuck? But do you know who that is? Just give me your first impressions. If you don't know who it is, what's your first impressions of that song, performer, video, whatever you want to comment on there?
A really chilled out, what's he called? Who's that Welsh singer? Shirley Bassey.
It's like a chilled out Shirley Bassey. That is a wonderful description of Elkie Brooks. Have you heard that name before? Nope. So that was her mega smash, a song called Lilac Wine. But you're right, the performance is so laid back. The gaps between the lines she sings, it's almost like she's just looking into the middle distance again. What should I say
I think the Shirley Bassey thing was that you're expecting her to start. I know there's part of it the way it was done. I was just expecting her to really start belting it out, like Goldfinger or something like that, and then it's actually still there.
That's from I think mid 70s, so it's not really the time we're talking about. But that is one of those. There's certain songs in British pop history that were like mega smashes, sold millions of copies, and yet have been completely forgotten. And I always find that really interesting.
That's sort of how. That's the sort of the other way around works as well. Like the Stooges sell nothing and become one of the most influential bands of modern times.
What's weird is that music like Elkie Brooks, which was like The Enemy when I was a kid, I mean even into my 30s probably, I'm still not a fan of it now, but there are a lot of indie bands about that. You probably can draw a line between stuff like Elkie Brooks, Bonnie Tyler is a bit different, but Carole King, all those kind of people, that there is a direct line between that and like Florence and the Machine and other contemporary people. But anyway, so Elkie Brooks saw them. I don't know if she's just hanging out in the pub, and she saw them and she was impressed by a number of things, partly Steve Marriott's voice. Now I'm going to leap forward a little bit because she's not the only person impressed by Steve Marriott's voice, and bear in mind how young he is. Excuse me.
So I know the Faces, Small Faces when they became the Faces. I don't know that much of the Small Faces. Can you play any of that for us?
That's really, really interesting because I think a lot of people, it's the other way around. So the Small Faces really sort of loom large, but we'll come on to the Faces later on. So Steve, I'm going to play a bit of them from very close to this time, and it's a live performance. But there's quite an impressive list of people who claim that Steve Marriott was a massive influence on their own voice and the way they perform, and that includes Ozzy Osbourne, includes Robert Plant, Paul Stanley. They've all said that his kind of like ability to remove paint from a wall with the power of his voice was what they aspired to. So let's hear a little bit of that. This is a song called All or Nothing, and it's going to be the first time in 40 minutes into an episode that we're actually going to play the Small Faces. So here we go. Whoop. Future Andrew here, well, editing Andrew. We've had a copyright claim before we've even launched the video, so I've had to remove the nice TV appearance of the Small Faces doing All or Nothing and replace it with a far superior, far crappier version, like a studio mashup thing. But I recommend going to look up the live version because it is good, but the TV station that owns it said, no, you must not use it. So there we go. Back to the show. Whoop! So the first you heard Steve Marriott's voice there. What's your first impression?
Yeah, when he's going for it, he's got an amazing voice.
And it's a soul voice. God, it makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. It's still, I've known Small Faces for so many years, but the bass on that clip, I don't know how well it came across because everything gets a bit crushed when we're doing these recordings. The bass is doing some real heavy lifting on that. It's nothing fancy. It's just thunking away. So this is, I think, 1965. Yeah, 1965. And if you think about that and then Tamla Motown and what came a little bit afterwards, one of my arguments for this episode is that there's something similar happening both sides of the Atlantic. Although was Tamla starting slightly early? You know more about that stuff than me.
Yeah, I always thought that Motown started like early 60s. But it only really got going like mid 60s. Like the engine really sort of started purring like mid 60s. Because when it was maybe it's late 50s even.
So to wrap this little section up, I'm going to talk about. Did you say his name was George? Kevin?
Gordon.
Gordon. I'm going to talk about Gordon. So I always thought that Gordon was in Quadrophenia, which came out in 78, autumn 78. I always thought it was because they were already famous, that the Police were already a big band, but they weren't. They'd released Roxanne and it had completely bombed. So by the time he filmed he filmed it in 78, the Police weren't a big deal. They were nothing. They were no one at all. But by the time Quadrophenia came out in 79, they were massive megastars. So before we move on, as a bit of a palate cleanser, do you want to see Gordon explode?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's have a nice little clip, and I'm afraid there's really nothing on audio that's gonna work very well for this. But if you're on visual, then here's Sting Gordon. The wind. Retrospective trigger warning. There might be some violence in that clip. Have you seen?
That was the only version of Dune I've seen. I think I can't be bothered with these 5-hour version bullshit.
To be fair, the new version of Dune is fantastic, but yeah, you've got to have a titanium ring piece to be able to sit down for that long and make it through the whole thing.
So long that you actually digested all the food you ate beforehand and need a shit.
I think I found the perfect level with cinema popcorn and drinks now. So I can eat a bucket of popcorn that will dehydrate me enough that I can then consume a bucket of soda pops. Although beer's much nicer to take into cinema.
I think for me, I actually these days I really prefer kids' films because they tend to stick to about an hour and a half, and therefore I don't get bored. Frankly,
there's a lot of films that we don't watch. I think we said before on Netflix or Prime or whatever. We look how long they are and just go.
I think the hour and a half thing keeps. This is not really a discussion for here, but I just think it keeps directors sharp.
Right. So Elkie Brooks,
hour and a half to 2 hours.
Elkie Brooks
Can't be bothered.
enjoyed Small Faces, and she said, she thought to herself, I'm going to get the management. So who do you think she got in as the manager?
Did she? Well, you alluded to it beforehand, but Sharon Osbourne's father was a very important music band manager who was also, notoriously violent.
That's not who she went to. She went to the landlord of the pub and said, you should manage these. But before we explain what's happened next, do you want another nice blast of the Small Faces live? I tried to make all the clips live because one of the real revelations with the Small Faces recorded, like the Kinks and the Beatles and a lot of the recordings were quite squished down. But live, they're just a lot rawer. But this is a little bit of Tin Soldier live on French television, I believe. No idea, but that clip makes me emotional. Some things just I don't know why it makes my eyes prickle. So that was a little bit of Tin Soldier. Do you recognise the? It's not really fair to call her a backup singer because her voice, the clip's out of sync, but her voice is unbelievably strong. Did you recognise her?
Yeah. Spending so long on her, I felt like I should recognise her. She is. Go on.
Her name's P.P. Arnold, and she's one of those people who you might not know her name for being like a megastar or anything, but she was like a seam that ran through the music scene. And her and Steve Marriott were an item at the time, but she was also did stuff with Hendrix, or she knew everybody, and she was involved in a lot of music. But I think that from Tin Soldier live is you can really see it's soul music. So I think one of the arguments of this episode is Small Faces are cited as being indie influential, but Steve Marriott's voice there, coupled with P.P. Arnold's voice, is just it's just I just think it's astonishing. She was also an Ikette, so yeah, she was part of the backup for Ike Turner and Tina Turner. She was an Ikette, right? So. The manager of the pub didn't do that well. I mean, he didn't feature for long as being the manager of the Small Faces. So the next manager was, you said it a minute ago, but you didn't know his name, Don Arden.
Sharon Osbourne Sr.
Yes. Now, several people call him the Al Capone of Pop, which I think is an interesting phrase because Al Capone's one of those characters who thought he was a hero. He thought he was beloved. He thought I'm doing this thing for the benefit of the neighbourhood, when obviously a very violent, unpleasant person. So on the 10th of June 1965, Don Arden signed the Small Faces to a 3-year-long management contract. And they were young. They were so young that their parents actually had to sign the deal because they're all under 18. Which I had no idea. They don't look under 18 when you see clips like that. But the same thing happened with Ash. There's no other parallels between Ash and the Small Faces. So he signed them to his company, Galaxy Entertainments, and got them a deal with Decca Records. But, as I say, because they were minors, their parents had to sign the record deals. So the next, as quick as they possibly could, Don Arden and Decca released a single. Now, the time frames in the 60s are so short. Bands at the time, some bands were releasing 2 or 3 albums a year. Early Beatles' career, 2 albums a year is just standard. So, signed 10th June, signed to Don Arden's management thing, signed to Decca, and then incredibly quickly their first single came out, and this is their first single. Boop! Sigh, it's Editing Andrew here again. We got another copyright strike, so another clip of the Small Faces live I can't show you. So here's a recorded clip, but go look up the good one, the live one, it's really good. Sigh, and let me walk you home at night. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Please, that's my question, baby. What you gonna do? Just all night. What you gonna do about it?
Guitar, that was as well.
But I don't know what that guitar, massive old Gretsch or something. I meant to say in the previous clip. So they're wearing their guitars slung low. The bass in the previous clip is like on his knees, and I think the Kinks were the only other band doing that at the time. It's just really unusual to see in 1965 that low. I don't know how else to put it. But what do you think of that?
It emphasised how small he was.
It's the Susie Quattro effect. So like Susie Quattro always looks really tiny because she uses a full scale, Fender Precision or whatever. I have the opposite effect. I make a Fender Precision look like a banjo. But there's something so cool about them. I don't know what it is. I mean, it's the swagger, I guess. But the other thing I take from that clip, and again, apologise if you're listening on audio, is that the amps they're using are proper big valve amps, and valve amps then are as loud as valve amps are now. That would have been fucking loud. That would have been very, very loud. But after this, if you listen to Small Faces recorded output, which you should, I think you'll be quite surprised at how smoothed off it all is. The raw record, the live stuff is kind of quite eviscerating, really. Right, so they got into the charts. And how do you think they got into the charts? They got into the charts in the way a lot of bands in the mid-60s got into the charts with their first single, including Jimi Hendrix.
By their manager dangling someone else, Ozzy Osbourne outside a window?
No, just by their manager spending loads of money telling people and paying people to go and buy the record. So, interestingly, I couldn't find any proof with the Small Faces, but with Hendrix, and the Animals were linked to Don Arden, but Hendrix was more looked after by one of the Animals, I think. So, with the Animals, Hendrix, they used the mods. They used the mod network to go out and buy fuckloads of copies of Hey Joe by Hendrix, because it's a way that you could get someone, say time spans are very, very compressed in the 60s. You get somebody completely unknown into the charts, and that's how you launch their career. They're off and away. How much money do you think Don Arden spent getting the Small Faces' first single, What You Gonna Do About It, into the charts?
A lot.
£12,000. Although again, it's impossible to prove this, because why would he keep records? Apart from the fact chart fixing wasn't against the rules back then, it's perfectly acceptable.
What's that in inflation?
£300,000. That's a considerable amount of money, isn't it? I mean, you've either got to have a lot of faith in the band or just have enough. I think Americans call it enough fuck-off money. So much money that it just doesn't matter. But I'd say that... Do you think that meant he was taking the band seriously? Do you think it meant he wanted a long career out of these children, essentially? They were minors.
I don't know. It depends how often he did it. Because, if he had another band that he had signed and didn't do it for them, then it suggests that he believed in them in a way that he didn't believe in other people. Whereas if he did it for everybody he signed, then it sort of suggestible that was just a technique of his.
I think you're probably right on the second count, because a lot of accounts say that he didn't see them as a long-term thing. He was literally he wanted to rinse them, get everything he could out of them, because he didn't think they'd last. And he used to make them gig 3 times a night. So he was relentless with them. So yeah, maybe that £300,000 in today's money wasn't that much of a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, is that I also think that they, whilst they did tend to spunk a load early on record labels, they also saw it as a bit, that they'd be getting residuals for a while as well.
Yeah, I think that's about the time that record labels started to cotton on to that, but it's also around the time that record deals were shit. Yeah, I mean, they're not great now, really, but back then. So what do you think the deal was for the Small Faces? What do you think they got out of the contract?
Oh, really? The management probably got something like 25%.
You think you think Don Arden got 25% and gave 75% to Steve Marriott, Ronnie Lane and the rest?
No, he probably put them on a wage, minimum wage, and just took all the money that came in and didn't hand very much over to the band. I would imagine that was what happened most of the time.
Yep, so their contract, 20 quid a week.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a long time ago, it's 1965, but 20 quid a week then was 500 quid a week now, which, to be fair, if you're like 16, 17 years old, I mean, for like pocket money, folding money, still living with your parents, money to spend on whatever you want, that's not bad, really. And you can see how young kids, which they were,
would
bad. Oh no, it is bad when you look at how much money he was actually bringing in. But I think you can see why kids were like, wow. But that wasn't the only thing they got. Do you know what the deal sweetener was?
He bought the suits for them?
You are pretty much entirely correct. So he gave them his offices were in Carnaby Street. Carnaby Street. I've forgotten how to say it. Carnaby Street. Oh, bloody hell.
Carnaby Street.
So he opened an account for the band in all the major shops on Carnaby Street because he wasn't a gangster so much. He kind of was, but he went in, and said to them, "Look, you go get as many clothes as you want. You get your 50 quid a week, but you can have as many clothes as you want from any of these shops." But of course, that wasn't free clothes really, because like all record deals, those were costs that had to be recouped before they'd get any royalties. So there's an allegation that there was some kind of sharp dealing there, that if Steve Marriott et al. Went into a shop and spent 100 quid on a suit, 100 quid would be added to their advance. They had to earn back before, but Don Arden would get the cost of the suit, perhaps at wholesale rate. So a 30 quid suit. So it's everything's stacked against these guys. It's not good, but he doesn't appear to have given a shit because he thought they'd burn out and wouldn't last very long. In fact, they had so many clothes, allegedly, they didn't wear most of them because it's only so many clothes. I mean, I'm a middle-aged man. I have 2 pairs of jeans, and I think that's excessive. So, yeah, he gave them clothes, but he just completely ripped them off. It's shocking behaviour. So something had to change.
There's been a book written about him.
Oh, there's like the Al Capone of pop. Yeah, there's a lot around Don Arden, and we're going to dig a little bit deeper onto some of that. But foolishly, I didn't actually line up the next clip properly, so I'm just going to keep talking like this until I found it. So something had to change. The band were being ripped off, and I think they kind of knew it by now. They must have been exhausted as well. Then something happened.
Baseline though.
It's a banger, isn't it? It's just what a baseline.
What a baseline. It's so chilled out as well. Like the music's got so much energy, and the bass is just like, yeah, I'll get there.
It's just got so much funk, isn't it? It's just what a vibe. Classic case of a band is when I was a stupid indie kid teenager. Oh, Beatles are shit. No, objectively, that is not shit. it's just not. In fact, the voices are remarkable as well. So obviously that was the Bee Gees with Stayin' Alive. I think it's Stayin' Alive, not Staying Alive. But anyway,
because it's basically saying stay in, and you'll stay alive.
Good advice. Do not touch Willie. Good advice. So they were managed by someone called Stewart, Robert Stewart. But before he managed them, he was the manager of Cream. So he sort of got together with the Small Faces and like, yeah, I'll get you out of this crappy deal. And Robert Stewart, I mean, he might have been just as bad as Don Arden. I've not really done that much research, if I'm honest. But he was going to get him out of this terrible deal. And this is only 1965 by now. Like, not a lot of time has passed. So Robert Stewart went to Don Arden's offices with a load of heavies, you know, rounded up a load of meaty-looking blokes and walked in and basically went, I'm going to have that contract off you now, please. And how do you think Don Arden reacted to that?
Ankle thrown out the window.
Yeah, you know the ankle. Like from the start of this thing, as soon as we mentioned Don Arden or Ozzy Osbourne's father, you know ankle hanging out of window is going to be a thing. Yeah, so he dangled him out the window by his ankles, and Don Arden, in his own memoir, said, I pretended to go berserk. I lifted the impresario bodily from his chair, dragged him to the balcony and held him so he was looking down at the pavement four floors below. I asked my mates if I should drop him or forgive him, and in unison they shouted, drop him. That's not a very good Cockney accent, is it?
Could you go a bit more Oliver? Channel Oliver a little bit more.
I asked my friends, should I drop him or forgive him? In unison they say, got him.
I need subtitles now.
Subtitles, I only need a new pair of underpants. Later on he changed his mind and Don Arden said, no, I didn't personally hang him by his boots. I mean, who gives a shit? So the fact is the band had got pretty much no royalties from any of their records by them. They were selling, but the final straw, apparently, what do you think the final straw was? So getting no money, getting shafted, 3 gigs a night, working for someone who's actually quite unpleasant. What do you think the final straw was that made them go to Stewart and say, look, please help get us out of this contract?
The suits turned out to be badly made.
They just all looked okay but were horribly tight around the crotch when you sat down.
Yeah.
No, Don Arden
split the balls in two.
We've all been there, man. No, Don Arden and Decca Records released a single without telling them. They released a song called My Mind's Eye, literally without telling the band. Like, oh yeah, we released a single. What? And I kind of quite like that was the it was the artistic thing for them. That they were like, no, you're releasing our art without even telling us now. So they did get out of the contract, and Stewart had to buy them out of the contract, which you would expect. So, do you want to have just a rough guess of how much he spent buying them out of the contract?
12 bob, as it was in those days. And a quick whack behind the bus stop.
12 bob and a hand shandy. No, it was 25 grand, which is about 600-something thousand pounds in today's money. I mean, the money, these 16, 17-year-olds, the money's shifting around them. Mm-hmm. Well, they were basically getting none of it. But yeah, that's, as we said earlier, that is Sharon Osbourne's dad, and she said that growing up it's quite normal to see him pointing guns and stuff at people, and there's other stuff. So I
think she's learnt a lot of management practices. She's sort of toned it down a little bit, but she's not far off.
Toned it down a little bit. So she entered the music business in 1982, working for her dad Don Arden, and in 1982 also took over. There's somebody at the door. Hello? Oh, Chris. Right, going to be a short interlude. Come in here. Come in. Because I'm not going to stop recording, but somebody I know has just come in. Chris, come here. Sorry. Come in. Put your head about there. So this is my friend Chris Chenery, who we go to gigs together and stuff. So Chenery Creative. This is going to be nothing on the audio version of the podcast, but hello, Chris.
Yeah. Hi.
I'm in the middle of recording Beat Motel at the moment.
Well, I'm sorry for interrupting. I was just passing in and through, so I thought I'd just say hello.
You're
one
always
of my favourite people in the world.
Well, that's not nice. You're always welcome to come in. I probably won't edit this out, so I'll let you know when it comes out.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
Right. See ya. Cheers, Chris. Isn't that nice? I don't get visitors here very often. That's proper rare. So, what do you think Sharon Osbourne did when she started working for her dad, and Ozzy Osbourne was being managed by her dad?
Got knocked up.
Got knocked up. That's so much worse. I got quite a stern talking to from my mother once when
You knocked up your wife.
No, I said something like, she's like, so, we're getting married. She's like, oh, what's next? I said, I'm going to knock her up. She said, if you ever do that, you'll have me do it. I said, what do you mean? I thought you want grandchildren. She said, you said you're going to knock her about. Like, no, I'm going to knock her about. Bloody hell. You met my wife. I wouldn't stand a chance. Not that's the only reason to. Anyway, so Sharon Osbourne basically took Ozzy Osbourne off her dad's hands. And that was a problem. That did not end well. It did not go well for decades, in fact. Now, there was somebody else who was around these people at this time when Don Arden and your Osbournes and your Small Faces and your Stigwoods and your Creams. And the link to this other person of interest is this person. So this guy's the link.
Everything that Uncle John need, oh baby. Yeah, baby. Ooh, baby. Having me some fun tonight. Yeah. Well, I saw Uncle John with bald head Sally. He saw his baby coming and he ducked back in the alley, oh baby. Yeah, baby. Ooh, baby. Having me some.
Wow.
I love. You watch the drummer. He's got his elbow leaning on his. He's like bent over. Got his elbow leaning on his thigh.
Just chilling.
Yeah. One arm is over doing a lot of work. The other one is pretty chilled out.
You might know the link to this already, because I think this is more. You tend to be more knowledgeable about people like Little Richard than I am. What do you think the link between Richard Little, between Little Richard, Don Arden, Ozzy Osbourne, and
Jimi Hendrix?
And I'm going to also say there's a link between this and arguably one of the largest bands that's ever existed.
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift, of course. No, so Led Zeppelin. Oh, crap. I gave it away. I didn't mean to say that. Oops. Yeah, just ignore that bit. So at the time, Don Arden was also managing the Animals and, bizarrely, somehow was managing Little Richard. So obviously Don Arden was busy dangling people out a window, so he couldn't actually go off and be a tour manager. So he hired someone who had been a wrestler. Giant of an man, absolutely massive man, and you probably know who that is because I've kind of given it away by accident. Who was the guy he sent to America to be the tour manager for Little Richard?
Is it the guy from the Animals, wasn't it?
No, it's Peter Grant. So Peter Grant, who then went, wow, do you not know? Sorry, it sounds like I'm being patronising. You not know who Peter Grant is? Okay, so Peter Grant was the manager of Led Zeppelin.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't really the Led Zeppelin. I don't know. As I said to you, I was like the other month. Like Led Zeppelin are just a band I just don't really get for the most part, which alienates me from 99% of my friends who have testicles.
Yeah, no, I like Led Zeppelin, but I just never listen to them. So that's it. That's the link, really. I think I probably ought to move on a bit faster now. So the band have now got quite a bit more control over what they're doing. They are in their stride now. So they've been playing that kind of high octane guitar music, it's fair to say. So their next move would have come as a bit of a surprise. So to tee that up, I'm going to play this. Another live recording. So that is Ogdens, Nutgun, Flake. I'm going to have to reply to this. Sorry. I'll call you back. Somebody rings and then rings and then rings and rings like, no, I'm not always available. Right, so that was Ogdens, Nutgun, Flake. So how do you...
I'm not always available, mother.
How would you describe that music compared to what you've heard of the Small Faces before?
It's very psychedelic. Whereas the Straight Faces were very bluesy, I would say, beforehand.
Yeah,
and
it's
maybe poppy bluesy, kinksy, and then this is pretty wig out. People on the floor, rolling around, clapping, drugs.
Rolling around, clapping.
Rolling drugs on the floor, clapping. Yeah.
So, just out of spite, Decker and Arden did two things when the Small Faces left. One of the things Arden did is he went to the band's parents collectively and told them alleged that the Small Faces had been using drugs. Do you think that might have been the case, or do you think that's a completely unfair fabrication?
I think this is late 60s, and I think it's the sort of hippest, amongst the hippest people in London, I would say they're using drugs.
They might have been. So this album's called Ogdens, Nut Gone Flake, and it came in a round tin. The record came in a round tin, and part of the reason they wanted it in a round tin, which was looked like a big, massive replica of a tobacco tin, is because they wanted something that was large enough to hold between your knees and roll jazz cigarettes with. So instead of the original tobacco was called Nut Brown Flake, they called it Nut Gone Flake, because in the words of the keyboardist at the time, Ian McLachlan, we assumed that marijuana would become legal quite soon, so we just envisioned that rather than cigarette machines, there'd just be joint rolling machines with the packaging and everything. So that's what they did with their thing. But there was problems. What problems do you think there are if you put your LP in a round tin?
Well, the tin's going to go off, obviously.
It's going to roll off shelves, literally roll off the shelves in the record shop. Sorry, my mind's been triggered by something, but I'm trying to... This is what happens when you hang out with a 6-year-old. So we're talking drug references and round LP tins, and what's the thing that's triggered you?
I don't know. Frankly, like, some of the music sounds great, but like, why are all the Small Faces? Then the singer goes on to be Humble Pie, and then the name of this album, which is very Kinks in a way, just like. Were the lyrics actually good, or did he just have a good voice? Because Humble Pie is such a bad name for a band. Small Faces is a bad name for a band.
I don't disagree with either. There is a reason they chose the name Humble Pie, but we'll come on to that. So, I mean, in terms of lyrics on this, there was singing on it, but it's a concept album, and some of it is, well, the second half of it's described as a psychedelic fairy tale, and it's narrated by someone called Stanley Unwin, who I didn't actually know who Stanley Unwin is. Do you know who Stanley Unwin is?
It rings a bell.
It rings a bell. So he was someone quite famous at the time, and I'm going to play a little bit of Stanley Unwin because it might help you sort of get your head round who he is. So this is the sort of language there was on the second side of the album as well. Come on, play.
Deep basso profoundly. Now this fundamental of deep joy should be manifest on the very occasion. Can I ask a question, Lode?
Oh, Peter.
When you're doing a deep sleeve at half-past Froome in the early Maudie, or perhaps a siesta in the afterlubrious, do you find sometimes that there's a sudden waking up, not a nightmare or that fluffy fourth? Does this got forth those times at all?
Niddle.
No, niddle.
All sleep well, Carter. Call on a lub mutlet. With the body waiting in the middle, skip lub.
Lub. Very tranquil, lovely.
Sorry, and you might want to check this. My internet just went out for a second. What the fuck's that? That's so weird to walk into.
I think one of the guys is the guy who did the voices for Bill and Ben. So there's several reasons why I don't think I've ever really latched on to the second side of Ogdens, Not Gun Flake, because that sort of stuff just gets on my tits after a while. And just sort of ends up.
It reminds me of like surrealist poetry and what have you.
It kind of is, and I wonder if something of it is that it's got lost in time. That it's just sort of might have been hilarious at the time, but the humour's just not there anymore. And they were still quite young when they were doing that, but. So that was Unwin, but their first choice to be on side B was Spike Milligan.
Oh, yeah.
That gives me the
Spike Milligan's more. You believe that he is there rather than putting it on.
Spike Milligan. I think you've hit the head. I think you hit the nail on the head. For me, Unwin is a bit like Amdram. It's a bit more like, hey, look how wacky we are, look how weird this is. Where Spike Milligan's a bit more like, I don't know why people find me funny, but I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah. Spike, I think Puccoon was the second book I gave my wife.
What, say that again?
You know Puccoon?
No.
One of Spike Milligan's novels.
Oh, I haven't read his novels.
It's very good. It's very, very good.
Very, very good.
Very good. Very, very, very good. Darling.
So this is a good excuse to, do you want to hear Spike Milligan say something unkind about King Charles?
Oh yeah, please.
Okay, let's have that.
I must confess that I've been a lifelong fan of the participants in the show, and particularly of Spike Milligan.
Oh, the little grovelling bastard.
I like that a lot. I think it's BAFTA Awards or something, and Spike Milligan was getting a Lifetime Achievement Award, and that letter from, then Prince Charles. Just love the fact he just stopped grovelling bastard. Right. So the album did well. It was at number 1 for 6 weeks. I mean, that's a big seller in the 60s. That's when you actually had to sell a lot of copies. So Ogdens, Not Gun Flake was a hit. But the band were fractured. The band were falling apart. And part of the reason was that Marriott wanted to bring somebody else into the band. He wanted to add someone, and that's really a good thing. Do you have a guess at who he wanted to add?
One of the Rolling Stones.
Fucking hell. Do you know what? A lot of this episode, you're not right, but you're not a million miles away. So this is the person who wants to join the band.
Do you freel?
Do you freel? It's very, very strange, isn't it? I mean, I do you know who that is?
Yes, I do, but I can't remember his name.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll play you another one of his songs, and it might cement it in. This is the person Steve Marriott wanted to join the band.
Come on, baby. I can't wait. Ooh, baby, I love you. Sing along. Gonna tell you I love you.
I mean, that's
punchable, isn't it?
What a great description. So that's Peter Frampton, who I don't know. Again, is somebody who I actually kind of know from The Simpsons. Really, certainly. I don't know where else that person ever came from.
Me and my brother were given one of his albums when I don't know, my brother was maybe like 10 or 11 by a very well-meaning friend of the family, and I think it just got put in a cupboard and we never listened to it.
Yeah, Frampton Comes Alive, I think, was one of the biggest selling albums of the 70s. Yeah. But the rest of the band were not having it. They did not want in, and there was other problems going on with the band. So a bit like Pet Sounds by Beach Boys, Ogdens Not Come Flake, the recording, genuinely quite an impressive feat, or for recording on a 4-track or an 8-track. But a lot of it had things that they just couldn't play live. So acoustic guitar, for example. We take it for granted now that people like Peter Frampton in that clip we just watched playing acoustic guitar are a big thing, but acoustic guitars were not something you could have on stage until the 70s, really, because they're just feedback. There was just nothing you could do. You couldn't be at volume.
Why wouldn't you just use the semi-acoustic?
I don't think semi-acoustics really exist. Oh, well, they did. Stuff like
they've been around since the 1950s.
They've been around since before solid bodies.
Maybe 1940s. I don't know.
They're not exactly
before Socrates. What?
Before Socrates, but they're not exactly kind of loud things, though, are they?
They're very loud. They're not as an acoustic thing.
So
they're as loud as the pickups are.
The final straw for the band, the final straw for Steve Marriott was Alexandra Palace, and they were playing a song called Lazy Sunday, which he hated. He just thought he wrote it as a joke, but they were arguing about royalties, and money still wasn't getting through to them. And it was a fairly typical story of a 60s band, or a 70s or 80s, or a lot of bands. Got massive success, didn't actually get any money from it, and then just started sort of bitching with each other, and it just it wasn't going to go well. It was a big mess. So Steve Marriott left because he was like, I get Frampton in, or there was a whole load of different things. So the remaining trio recruited a guitarist called Ron Wood, who...
Met him.
You've met him? Where did you meet Ron Wood?
In Hyde Park.
Bloody hell, really? He's quite a distinctive looking fella, isn't he? Looks like...
I was sitting on a bench. It was a nice day. I was sitting on a bench and I was reading my book because I don't know, I didn't want to be in my flat reading my book. I just want to get out of the house or something, and I saw him, and it's sort of because you don't see a fucking Rolling Stone every day, do you? So he's walking like I kept looking up. I'm actually, the park is completely the wrong place for me to read a book. I think I was sort of trying to be romantic to myself, like go somewhere nice, read a book. Actually, I need quiet and silence and lack of distractions to read a book. And so I kept looking up anybody who walked past. I looked up at Ronnie Wood, and he decided to come and sit down next to me.
I actually sat with you. So he came to you, so he might have gone home and said, I met Dr. Sam today.
Yeah, I wasn't a doctor at that point, but...
Just plain old Sam.
I was like, oh, hello, yeah, and I thought it was a bit weird, so I gave it a few more minutes, didn't say anything to him. I think he was with his partner, or his partner, whoever that was then, because the Rolling Stones aren't very good at fidelity, are they?
Low retention, high turnover. Yeah. High churn rate, I think you call it in business.
Low turnover of band members, high turnover of wives.
Ladies.
And I just sort of packed up my book and went off. I didn't know what to do. It's like I didn't want to say, I know you're Rolling Stone. I don't really care about your music, but it's pretty amazing to see you in Hyde Park.
I think I would have reacted the same way. Like, look, any interaction we have together is not going to enrich either of our lives. So let's just part ways.
In 10 years' time, I'm going to be on a podcast. We don't know what they are. They haven't even started yet. 10, 12 years' time, I'm going to be on a podcast, and I'll just occasionally drop in, I've met you, because
it will give us something to talk about when we're running out of ideas.
It just shows you how bad I am in the face of celebrity.
You've done all right with me. Right, so there's another connection here. So Jeff Beck had left Yardbirds and formed the Jeff Beck Group, and he had a singer who was called Rod Stewart. But at the time, Rod Stewart had just left the Jeff Beck Group, so he was recruited into what became... Well, they were the Small Faces, and as you alluded to right at the start, they then became the Faces.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because Rod Stewart and Roy Wood, that lad,
were particularly tall.
Ron Wood. It wasn't because they were tall. They were also quite small. But obviously, you're going to want to change the name a bit, and a bit like the Yard.
Did the band have like a thing outside their rehearsal door going, "You must be under this height to enter"?
Well, like on a fairground, like this kid's fairground ride, you must be no taller than this, otherwise you'll be decapitated by parts of the roller coaster. Yeah. But much like Led Zeppelin were initially called the New Yardbirds, if you've got a bit of momentum for a name, I guess you kind of want to keep it. So they were the Faces, but they did choose another name, which might be the worst name I have ever heard. They were going to be called Quite Melon, which is very much a cupping your head in your hand. You've got time like that? You think that would have been better than the Faces?
Who knows how we would feel about that? Sort of 40 years on, 70 years on now. We're already talking about 60 years on.
Oh bloody hell! Yeah, it is.
So how
Quite Melon.
Quite Melon, and yeah.
Let's have a little bit of the Faces with Knob Stewart and Robbie Wood. What's your impression of that before I say anything about it? That's Stay With Me by the Faces.
So tame compared to the early Small Faces stuff.
Oh, it is. So it's a lot more sanitized. But I mean, I grew up with this music. This is now the sort of stuff my dad used to listen to in the car and whatever. And I think musically, it's not.
What are kids going to say about that? And sort of. What are the kids going to say about that in 30 years' time? My dad used to play Cannibal Corpse, and it's so tame.
It's so tame. Yeah, just fucking Emperor. Come on, Fiber.
So it's like they're so tame.
But I think musically it is tame. But musically, I think it's sort of fairly Route 1 blues. Would that be fair? But it's all right. Yeah. It's not shit. I mean, Rod Stewart's voice is interesting, but Rod Stewart got a bit too big for his boots, and the Faces didn't last that long, and then Rod Stewart went on to... That is literally all I'm going to play of that. The only redeeming feature of that is it was the backing band wasn't the Faces, but the backing band was actually the Moseley Shoals studio crew.
When I was a young, foolish tit, and drinking in pubs in Brighton with my old school friends, sometimes we would get very drunk. And I didn't know that song really through Rod Stewart. I knew that song through Men Behaving Badly.
What? What's the connection there? Bloody hell!
They sit in a pub rowing.
What?
And because we were, all of us were sort of fans of English comedy stuff, we used to sit singing that song, doing the same thing because we thought it was heroic. We thought it was amazing. What you do as young men who've drunk too much.
But pub carpets
your guides are situation comedy to drinking too much.
That's just... I did not see that coming at all. So... Right. You've thrown me off whack a bit here. So you mentioned Humble Pie earlier. So Steve Marriott did form a band with Pete Frampton.
When does he start his very successful hotel chain?
Marriott Hotels. Oh dear, this is slightly exacerbated.
This is what you get. This is dad jokes.
This is what we want. This is what we want to hear. So you mentioned Humble Pie. That was what they're called. Frampton wasn't actually in the band for all that long because I don't think Steve Marriott was probably that easy to be in a band with. But we're going to have a little bit of Humble Pie. So similar time to Faces, obviously.
Steve Marriott gives it all live, doesn't he?
He gives it some. I knew that they'd done Humble Pie, but because of the Peter Frampton connection, I think I'd never really paid it much attention. But I like that. That's actually with another band called the Blackberries. Song's called Oh La Di Da. But there's some meat to that, isn't there? There's some oomph to that. So Humble Pie actually got massive. The Small Faces and the Faces, although as a slight confusing thing, the record label still called them the Small Faces in America. They never really got the traction. They kind of did a bit with Rod Stewart and Ron Wood, but Humble Pie actually got massive. They became a huge band, but not for very long. They say with some people, getting everything you want can be the worst thing that can happen to you. So they said that about like ODP. Some people should not get everything they want. And I'm not saying that's what happened to Marriott, but the drink and the drugs and whatever was a bit much. 2 years. That's more or less how long their peak lasted, which is, again, very short. Think how few years there are between really being in Oliver and Humble Pie. It's like 10 years. It's just utterly bizarre. Unfortunately, we do have to cover what happened to Steve Marriott at the end. Are you aware of Steve Marriott's what happened after Humble Pie? Okay, so I'm going to just sort of read this out rather than give it any sort of treatment. So Friday 19th of April 1991, Steve Marriott and his third wife, Tina Poulton, flew home from the United States. Frampton had asked Marriott to go over to the States to record an album with him, because Frampton by then was huge, and essentially he wanted to make Marriott financially stable. He wanted to do an album that would just be like, look, you're okay now. You're going to have some money now. You've been all right. But Marriott drank the whole way through the journey back, and when they got back, they went out to a restaurant called the Straw Hat, apparently in Sawbridgeworth, and he drank more, and they went back to a friend's house. And Sunday, 20th of April 1991, at 6:30 in the morning, they went back to stay at a friend's home. His wife fell asleep, but when she woke up later, she found out that Marriott had taken a taxi back home by himself. And then Saturday morning, the day after, motorists noticed that Marriott's house was on fire. So called the fire brigade, 4 engines turned out, and Steve Marriott died 44 years old, which is wild. I'm not going to give you any of the other details of that because it's too grim. If I'm honest, it's too sad. But the legacy of Steve Marriott and the Small Faces, because it's not just one person's output. Obviously, we've talked a lot about Marriott because it's the front man. It's the way these things tend to go. But the legacy is absolutely huge, absolutely massive. So let's have a look at how many bands carry the DNA. That's a horrible journalist term. How many bands might have been influenced? So I'm going to find a song. I'm going to play you 2 songs, actually. I'm going to play you the song that Marriott didn't like, that made him storm off stage at Alexandra Palace. And it's this one, which was a big hit. He said he wrote it as a joke. So this is... There's no one to hear me, there's nothing to say, and no one can stop me from feeling this way, yeah. Lazy Sunday afternoon, I've got no mind to worry. Close my eyes and drift Oh, so that's Sunday I keep giving things away. That's Lazy Sunday, and here's a song which I think might be influenced somewhat by that. You think the Cockney delivery and all that, the musicalness of it? I think this was influenced by it.
Sunday, here again, a walk in the park. You meet an old soldier and talk of the past. Immortalized into a war, something he knew is never more. He sings the song of the post every week, but always falls asleep. For the Sunday sleep, but he knows what he knows. Sunday.
So, do you think that might have been influenced a bit by the Small Faces?
Yeah, but Blur were very good in those moments. Blur, particularly that era of Blur, was very sort of they were very studious of sort of English, sort of 60s rock. So I think they were very conscious of lifting and paying homage to the stuff that came. That it's definitely I think they tried to eschew the Beatles, but lay into things around. I would say particularly Bowie, Kinks, and I think maybe probably the Small Faces.
There's so many. I mean, I've written a list of bands who have said they're influenced by Marriott and the Small Faces, and some of it's quite surprising. Oasis apparently say Marriott, Noel Gallagher was influenced by Marriott, and that surprises me. But there's just arguably most indie music in the late 90s, early 2000s was, you can certainly feel Small Faces' influence on there in quite a big way. So before we move on to the last bit, let's just have one more bit of Marriott having a little bit of a shred. Let's just have the last bit. Here we go.
They went all hey Joe there.
that was quite Hey Joe, wasn't it? But I chose it because
I mean literally but the bass line, when the bass line starts walking, it's Hey Joe, and then he's doing solo, and it's obviously these guys have seen Hendrix.
They have definitely seen Hendrix. There's loads of contemporary stories. Like one of my favourites, because it involves a notorious racist, unapologetic racist bursting into tears, was apparently Clapton side of stage watching Led Zeppelin play at the Marquee Club or something, and burst into tears and just went, "It's over," because he was a bellend. Clapton, that is, just to be clear, not Hendrix. I don't think anyone's got anything bad to say about Hendrix, which is nice. Right. Just looking at the time, we're going to move on to the last section now, which is...
How has Beat Motel enriched your life today?
So...
The best one.
Do you want that again? Let's have that again.
How has Beat Motel enriched your life today?
So
that's the best one.
Thank you, Martin Wiskin. MartinWiskin.com. Right, so I think it's .com. Anyway, so here's your quiz. I'm going to give you a quiz now. See how much you've learned. So, Sam, we tracked 3 legendary 60s frontmen who all played the Artful Dodger in Lionel Bart's Oliver. Name all 3.
There was the Genesis drummer. There was,
Phil Collins, yeah.
There was the pirate.
Davy Jones.
And
for the guy of Davy Jones' locker fame, Steve Marriott.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's one. Ding. I haven't got a sound effect for this. Ding. You got that correct. Right. On 9th of February 1964, Davy Jones sung "I'd Do Anything" on the Ed Sullivan Show in full-on Dodger gear. Which legendary British band made their historic American debut on the same episode?
Oh, the Beatles.
Ding. The name Small Faces combined 2 specific facts about the band members. One of them was their top tier status in mod slang. What was their other physical restriction?
They were vertically challenged. Is that the one?
Ding! Sting played the ultimate mod leader in the 1979 film Quadrophenia, defining the word face for a new generation.
Gordon.
Sorry, yeah. What was his character's exact title, and what was the name of his real-life band who was struggling to break through at the time?
Gordon and the Pillocks?
It was Ace Face, and the answer was the Police. I'm not going to give you that. Right.
I was never going to name the Police. I mean,
just don't want to say them out loud.
Gordon and the Police.
Gordon and the Police.
I quite like the name Gordon and the Pillocks. I think it's a very good 70s punk
Gordon
band.
and the Pillocks is the sort of band you'd hear on a compilation of Stiff Records singles, isn't it? Absolutely.
They played one gig in like a small pub in a small Suffolk village and never heard of again.
Oh dear. Right, so the sleeve, the round sleeve for Ogdens Not Flake was a total disaster that rolled off the shelves. Why did they want it that shape and that size?
Because they wanted to roll drugs on it between their legs.
They wanted to roll drugs up their thighs, yes. So, I can't be asked for the rest of these questions. They're kind of crap, really. Yep, nuts to that. I'm just going to say you passed. That's absolutely fine. Right. Anything? So now that you've heard a bit of the Small Faces, you know a bit more of the story. What's changed? Is your opinion of them changed? Do you think you listen to them again afterwards?
Yeah, I'm going to check out the early stuff. I don't know the early stuff that much, and Humble Pie and Hope, and maybe check out the live albums because they sound like they might be, or live recordings because they sound like there might be some juice to that. And what else? It's sort of a homage to how interconnected and what a small world actually the music industry in London particularly was back then. You know, everybody knew everybody fucked everybody, and everybody was hung out of the window by Sharon Osbourne's dad.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Cool.
I'm really struggling not to mention Sharon Osbourne's Twitter thing about hanging out with the far right in the UK.
I don't want to know about that. I'm going to end the show now. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe. And have we got a topic for next episode yet, Sam?
Pirates! Arr!
Are you really going to do pirates?
We're going to do pirates.
Oh, that is cool as shit.
They don't play the instruments you think they play.
Love it. Right.
And they're not from Cornwall.
We have got a final clip from Martin Wiskin. So thanks for listening. Please subscribe. Please just give us shit in the comments section, all that stuff. Bye bye.
Right, that's us done for another episode. All facts were meticulously researched, more or less. But if we got something wrong, feel free to keep that to yourself. If you enjoyed this episode, please tell everyone you know. And if you didn't enjoy it, then well done for making it to the end. Please subscribe to Beat Motel on your podcast app and on YouTube. All subscribers get a free drink at the annual Beat Motel picnic. Dig into the archives at beatmotel.com. Beat Motel is an Andrew Laws Associates Limited production.